Josie, thank you so much for joining me today in studio. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I had an abortion when I was 21. I was in a relationship I knew I probably shouldn't have been in, but found myself pregnant at 21 and absolutely terrified. And even 9 years later, still a big part of my life, still think about it every day. And so I just love to encourage other people and to try and help them to keep their unplanned pregnancy, because I really found that it stuck with me for life. And so my goal is just to share that there can be hope.
And that's why we have you here. Now, at that time, at 21 years of age, did anybody offer you support?
I would say encouragement, but not support. And I didn't really know where to go for support. I didn't know support was available. I felt alone, and you don't really hear of any kind of. It can be really hard if you're not in the right communities or the right places to find out about any help that could be possible. Yeah. So, yeah, I felt very alone in that situation.
And were you pressured by family members or friends or your partner at the time to abort the baby?
Yeah, so the day I found out, and I don't know why I did it on text, but I just text my boyfriend at the time. I was like, I'm pregnant and here's a test result. And his first reaction was, that's fine, we can get an abortion. And I remember thinking, well, why is that the first option? Why have you jumped to that just
Straight away?
without, yeah. And so I was really excited. I felt really happy. I felt like excited. And I thought, this is amazing. This is beautiful. This is life. And my boyfriend had kind of told his parents, and they were all kind of like, you need to get rid of this. This is the problem. You two are too young to have a baby. And I felt a lot of pressure. And I was basically told that if I didn't get rid of this baby, I'll be a single mum by my boyfriend. And for me, that put a lot of fear into me.
Of course.
And I had this vision of myself being this single mum, really poor, really stuck in a flat, I don't know, just stuck in some kind of horrible building for the rest of my life, when, that didn't really have to happen. But for me, I just assumed the worst in my situation. So I did feel really pressured. And I, at the time, loved that guy so much that I didn't want to lose him. So I thought, well, if I have this abortion, at least I'll still have him, because I thought my world would crumble without him. And so ultimately, even though I wanted that baby, I wanted to keep it, and I really loved and cherished that baby, I just caved into all that fear that he was kind of feeding me of, you're going to be a single mom. But if you get rid of the baby, I'll still be around. That was his promise.
Classic.
Yeah, and I think I would just go back to myself and say, never give in to peer pressure, because it is, if there's an inch of you that wants to keep that baby, don't let people convince you.
Exactly, don't cave into that pressure. And can you talk us through how and where the abortion then took place?
So I remember, we went to my doctor, and I said, I've had a positive pregnancy test, and I want you to confirm it, because at the time it kind of took a while to really believe, right, I'm pregnant. And I didn't really believe it. I wanted the doctor to tell me, okay, we've done a test, you're pregnant. And she said to me, right, you've had a missed period, you've had a positive pregnancy test, you are pregnant. and I don't need to do any tests on you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just remember I cried, and my boyfriend was in the appointment with me, and he said, right, hand us the abortion information. And the doctor could see that there was something inside of me that didn't want that abortion. So she said to me, you don't have to have an abortion if you don't want one. And I took the leaflets and we left that appointment. And funny enough, as I was walking out of those doctors, I felt like joy in my womb and I felt life. It was like God was trying to talk to me and tell me, like, there is life in your belly. And I felt joy, even though I had my boyfriend with me who was, was pushing for the abortion. So we planned the abortion. It was at a clinic, I think maybe in Wembley, somewhere near London. And you go in for the first day, they do a scan to see how far along you are. And because I was early enough to have the DIY at home pill,
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
I think I take 2 pills. So one pill is to kind of, I think it just slows down the process of the baby growing. I think it just stops it growing. And then you go back a few days later and have the second pill, which encourages the kind of labour,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
And I remember taking the first pill and feeling so sad because I was like, I've done it now. I've taken this pill that is basically going to stop this baby from growing anymore. And I recently found out through the organisation of Live Action that you can actually reverse that first pill. And I think if I knew that at the time, I would have loved to know that, because I had so much regret even taking that first pill and so much sadness and wanting to reverse that, but I thought it was too late. But I have just found out that apparently there is something you can do to reverse it, which is amazing. But yeah, a few days later, I went back to the abortion clinic, took the second pill.
In the clinic.
Do you know what? I think it was in the clinic, and then I think
Okay. So the first pill was at home, was it?
I think they were both. Do you know what? It's so blurred.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious.
I think I took them both at the clinic.
Okay.
But yeah, if I took one at home, I can't really remember. It was so blurred. It was, 9 years ago. But I do remember, I think I took the second pill at the clinic and they said by the time you get home, it will kind of, start that miscarriage. And that was just so traumatizing. Like, nothing could have prepared me for it. I threw up. Right. I was literally laying on my bathroom floor, just in agony, because it's like does the contractions. And I just remember thinking, like, this is such a mess. And then you're like, no one's here to look after me. I'm just, laying on a bathroom floor, like going through the most traumatic experience of my life on my own. And it's something where there should be medical professionals checking up on you. You're going through something. I was on my own. Anything could have happened. And I just remember crying after, it sounds really sad and maybe a bit disturbing, but I just remember like looking maybe in the blood clots that were coming out and actually trying to like see my baby, because I had an emotional attachment to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see it, and just feeling so sad and empty after. I couldn't really believe what I'd just done, and I was kind of hoping that maybe I'll feel a bit better in the next few days as I recover.
I think people can think that that's what they're going to feel. You say, oh, well, I'll just feel relief. And perhaps some women may feel relief instantly, but I think sometimes it does catch up on many women. That feeling kicks in of regret or shame. And for you, when did you realise that you may need healing after such a traumatic event?
I think I knew straight away. I was like, I'm going to need a lot of healing because at that time I had work colleagues that were pregnant, and I remember saying to them, when are you due? And they would say October, and I knew that was when my baby would have been due. I think around that time, the end of October, and I just remember almost being like envious of them and just thinking it's not fair, even though I know I made the decision myself, but I felt like I caved into that decision. I didn't make it on my own thoughts. I kind of caved into that thought of having the abortion. So I knew I needed healing because I was being hateful of people that were pregnant, and that's not healthy.
No, it doesn't do you any good to envious through.
No.
But it can be a natural response to such a horrific event. But where was your boyfriend in the midst of all this? Because obviously you're suffering so badly here. Where was he?
That's a very good question. I think it was a time of where our relationship just never really got back on track after that. I had felt so rejected because I took him rejecting my baby as him rejecting me. And so there was a lot of hurt in our relationship and maybe a lot of bitterness and awkwardness. I felt very awkward. It was me that would normally go to his house, and I felt so awkward because his parents had been so involved with pushing for the abortion, and I just felt so rejected that our relationship never really got back on track. And I think we ended up breaking up. So I had the abortion in March and we broke up fully in May. So after 2 months. It was very toxic in between those 2 months. It was, full of just a lot of resentment and rejection and a lot of hurt. And he didn't know how to deal with it because he just wanted to sweep it under the carpet. Yeah, I was happy to be with him because I thought I was so head over heels to be with him. But at the same time, this happens a lot. You find it hard to carry on a relationship sometimes when there's been an abortion involved because it does bring up a lot of hurt into the relationship.
Exactly. And how did you process your grief then from all of this, from losing the baby and also the relationship?
I think I kind of kept a lot of it bottled up for maybe about a year. And then I found myself kind of giving myself these new goals of, well, I'll meet someone else and then we'll have kids straight away really quickly. And it kind of led me down this path of, I don't know how to explain it, but just a path I shouldn't have been on because I found myself after that relationship settling for someone else that wasn't right for me just because he would offer me like marriage and children because that's all I wanted after. I just realised I want to be a mum, so quickest way to become a mum, find the next guy that wants to offer that to me, amazing, but he wasn't right for me. And we ended up clashing a lot and arguing a lot. So I would say, because I had so much hurt and because my grief was so bottled up, the way I dealt with it was just looking for, instead of healing, I just wanted to okay, how can I have kids as soon as possible? Because that was why I was hurting, because I didn't have the baby that I wanted. And so I just tried to cover it up, move on, have different kids with someone else. And it just ended up being the wrong guy and wasted both of our times, broke both of our hearts. So it just ended up in more and more grief and heartbreak, to be honest, because it was just a downward spiral. And it wasn't until I broke up with that other relationship that I shouldn't have been in, and I found myself just saying, right, I'm going to be single and I'm going to heal. And I found a real true relationship with Jesus, and I found healing through a Christian organisation that offer prayer ministry, and they offer teaching on forgiveness and why that's important. And I was able to forgive all the people involved in my abortion, all the people that pressured me, even forgiving myself and forgiving the medical professionals involved, and finding forgiveness, from God, just repenting and saying, I'm sorry for doing this, because it wasn't until then that I realised really that how important that life was to God, and how many signs he was trying to give me to not have an abortion that I just totally ignored. I had so many signs that God was trying to tell me that my baby has a life and that it is precious to him. 2 weeks before I had even found out I was pregnant, I opened up my Bible in church and found the book of Obadiah in the Bible, which is a really minor prophet. No one even knows about him.
Yeah.
And God highlighted that name to me and said, that's the name of your child. And I remember saying, one day when I have a child in 10 years, God. 2 weeks later, found out I was pregnant. So God named my baby. And then my granny, who is very prophetic, she had a dream and told my mum, someone in the family is pregnant. And my mum was like, oh, that's really weird. So God was trying to give me all these signs, and I ignored them.
And I think it's very important to note that, because there's a lot of women who I've talked to who perhaps are considering an abortion, they're like, oh, if I could just see in the future, I could just see. And I'm like, yeah, well, the Lord wants to show you. From your experience, the Lord was showing you, speaking to you about your unborn baby before you've given birth. And I think that's such a treasure, and also that God is speaking and that he has a plan for these babies. But I don't think people realize so often that that God wants to have that relationship with them, and he wants to speak to them about their unborn baby. So it's refreshing to hear the different ways that God had been speaking to people about your baby. But how did you feel as it got closer to the due date of your baby? How did you feel?
I felt just empty, and that it really is the only word I can describe it, because people around me were having their babies, and I just felt so upset that I had that emotional attachment from the beginning and I never got to see it through, and I was just disappointed in myself. I just felt hopeless. And it was really hard for me because I had a newborn coming to my family. Someone in my family had a baby, and it was around May time the next year. So after October was the next May. And I just remember holding him and just feeling so much grief of, oh my goodness, this should be what is in my arms and it's just not. And you do feel so broken and empty. I know so many girls that feel exactly the same way as well.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And how has your experience shaped your view of motherhood now that you're married and pregnant, years later?
I think just more tears, because I remember finding out I was pregnant with this baby. Thank God he has restored a baby to me, and I'm so grateful. And I remember finding out I was pregnant and just crying and just grieving over the baby that I did get rid of 9 years ago. Even 9 years later, God's given me another baby, but I'm just still so upset and disappointed in myself that I didn't carry it through, and that, I I could have given that baby a chance, and I was just too scared. So I think, yeah, just I think it's shaped my view of motherhood in the way that I can finally, when this baby is born, by the grace of God, I can say I faced my fears, I did it, because I'm 30 now, I'm married, and I'm in a secure home, but nothing prepares you for motherhood, nothing prepares you for having a baby. You still feel scared, and I still have no idea, what to do. Like, I don't know how to change a nappy. I don't know what to expect with the sleepless nights, and I don't know financially what's to come. I'm still, all those questions are still very much on my mind, and I don't think anything can prepare you for that. And I don't ever think there is a time where you can be ready for that, because I'm still not ready. I'm not ready to lose my sleep. I'm not ready to be financially, looking after a baby, but I will be able to say that I faced my fears and I did it. And even the thought of giving birth, it's scary. But I can say, even though fear is a huge, huge part of pregnancy, even me now, like the first few symptoms of this pregnancy was more anxiety. Even before I knew I was pregnant, I was getting anxiety.
Okay.
And I think fear can really overtake you when you're pregnant, whether you're expecting it or not, whether it's a planned pregnancy or not. I remember just having a lot more anxiety and thinking, this is really weird. I'm not normally this anxious. But I think you can be even more anxious and vulnerable when it's an unplanned pregnancy.
Yeah.
But I just want to let people know that I think even when it is a planned pregnancy, it can also be just as scary. And I think it's really important to just face those fears head on and say, I'm having this baby no matter what.
Was that what you would say? What is something that you would say to a 21-year-old facing an unplanned pregnancy who might be watching this video and your story?
Yeah, so I would say, like, I'm 30 now and I'm still scared. I'm still worrying about finances. Not worrying, but, not sure and not guaranteed. And, there's all these questions in mind. And I think there is no right time, and there is no perfect time to say, right, I'm ready to have this baby. I honestly don't know if I would have been ready in 2 years' time. There's always an excuse to say, maybe I should focus on my career, or maybe I should have a big house first, or maybe, whatever is in the question, the baby's in your belly now, and that baby doesn't just leave your memory after that abortion. It stays with you, and every baby you will see, like for me, any baby I would see, any child I would see, I would just wish that I would have allowed my baby to come to full term and to be able to go to school and grow up like all the other children that you see around you. And children are just so happy, and they're such loving, like innocent, amazing humans. And, as long as you can offer them your best, you're going to be fine. That's what I would say, because I love children now. And ever since I had that pregnancy when I was 21, I just became this like motherly person, because that pregnancy changed me. And unfortunately, because I caved into that fear, I didn't get to become a mum, but I still felt like one, because you feel those instincts. And I would say just face those fears, because it's so much better to face those fears and have an amazing little human grow up, and watching them grow up, I think, is so special. Instead of thinking, oh, what if I'd kept that baby? What if, and then you don't have to become bitter because everyone around you's having children, and you're left there with just an abortion, and it's just a horrible feeling.
Yeah, it's not a nice feeling, but I'm sure you're aware of the recent news where they have pushed for decriminalisation, and it's passed in Parliament, where we now can abort a baby up until birth for any reason. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it just broke my heart. You know, the baby in me is 6 months now, and the thought of, you know, something that size, you know, just being taken, and the fact that after 22 weeks, if your pregnancy is planned and anything happens to your baby, like you have an early labour, the NHS will save your baby. Whereas if you decide, oh, I don't want my baby, you know, the NHS will now kill it. And it just doesn't make sense to me how they would save a 22-week baby that's wanted by its parents versus a 22-week or up till birth baby that isn't wanted by its parents. To me, that is just so immoral and so wrong. And every single baby is just as important, whether they're wanted by their parents or not. They're wanted by God, and that's why they're here. And I just don't understand how they decided that with their moral compass, to save lives of wanted babies, but be happy to kill unwanted babies past the stage of 24 weeks, you know, up until birth. I just think it's heartbreaking.
It's really, really, it is, yeah, it does break my heart. Well, Josie, thank you so much for joining me, and we wish you well in the rest of your pregnancy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem.